3 weeks we haven't met, so I'm looking for something. First of all, I'm trying to insurance crops fire. I don't want to discuss it in great length, just to say that to pastor. I'm sure the guys will rebuild. I'm sure it's going to be even better than before with Actio. No, the best. So that's the first. And then, of course, we had the non-third fest. I will leave most of the report to the chief. I know it's much better what happens. But for my part, this is what I have to say. I feel that we reached a limit that we can. I think, and I'm talking only for myself, that many of the things that happened on Saturday specifically are unacceptable. Unacceptable to me. There is a line between kids having fun, I'm all for that, and people, including kids, being in any kind of dangerous situations. I think we had some of this last weekend. Nevertheless, I'd like to thank you, Chief, for allowing me to ride with you for a few hours on Friday. It was really educating for me. It was really good to see it, although it was not too bad on Friday. But it was, nevertheless, it was good. And I have to say that on behalf of the people, I'd like to thank both departments, fire department and the police department, for all the work that they put through that weekend. And we got through it. Let's move on. Number 3 on my report, I had many phone calls and many messages about the problem with the garage being closed on Eagle Street. People don't know what to do with their brush. People don't know what to do with their grass. A lady from Burnett's Road, she called me. She said that she has about up to 10 bags of grass per week. She used to take to the garage. They have nothing. They don't know what to do now. They even tried to call Casella, only to be told that that's the town's responsibility, and she ended up not knowing what to do. I mean, this is a fire hazard. This is a hazard. We cannot let that happen. I don't pretend to have an answer right now. I just want to put it out there so we know what's going on. Now, there's another issue that I want to touch on. We have a hotel in the village of Fredonia called Days Inn. I became aware of an issue and that is this. Apparently, the county social services are using the hotel as a temporary housing for recently released inmates. This temporary housing supposed to be for a couple of weeks, correct? But as far as we know, it has become on a monthly basis. Some of these people live there for more than a month, more than 2 months, about 5 months, 6 months, even more. And there are quite a few problems with that. First of all, I don't think the hotel is it's allowed by the code to do that, to house anybody on a monthly basis or maybe even weekly basis. So they are in violation of our code. Also, there is an increased need for police services. Our police department, correct me if I'm wrong, are there almost every week, definitely?
Almost daily.
Almost daily. I didn't want to say that, but almost daily. It's expensive for the county. Cost about $2,000 per person per month. And at the end of the, also, I don't think it's beneficial to these people. I don't think they provide anything to these people. I don't think this is a bridge between being in jail and coming out, being a productive member of the society. Also, this is the only hotel in the village right now. We have graduations. We have summer coming up. And the only hotel in the village has this problem. I had a meeting with the county executive this morning, and among other things, we discussed that. He was very understanding, and we discussed a few ideas. So we trying to come up with a solution for this problem. In the meantime, the hotel should be cited. Right? We talked about it, and you told me that they are not.
We're trying to do an inspection right now to see exactly what's going on. So we've called the owner to schedule our yearly inspection, and then we'll report back to see how many units are affected, and I'll talk to our attorney to see the best way to handle it.
Okay. Apparently this happened in Dunkirk as well, happened in Jamestown. I have a real problem with nobody coming to the village to ask if they can do that, to tell us they want to do that. We just found out totally by accident. So that's the fourth thing that I have to do to report. Now I'm going to end my report with a good note. On a good note, I just got an email that we were awarded the New York State Main Street Technical Assistance Award. The $20,000 that we applied for just came through. The trying thing now is that we need to have 15 days to sign the contract, collect all the papers, and send them back. So next Monday, I already am calling for a special meeting next Monday to be able to do that, so we have them ready. Okay. So that's it. That's for my report. Thank you very much. So now, Jim, you asked some questions, and I thought Rick was the best person to answer them.
Okay.
The building report at the fire department. The engineer, Jen Hill from Wendell, has been there. They met with me and Ryan to go over what we're looking for there. What we're doing is the fire department wants a section of the hose tower to use for certain training. And I didn't know, and neither did she, what that's going to cost. So what I requested was to have the bid go out as is, leave the building the way it is, repair it as the way it is, and then have a secondary bid for the hose tower modifications that they're asking for. This way the board could see both costs, and the board can make a decision on, do we want to spend the extra money to do this additional piece? Or do we want to just put the building back into
Right.
its original condition? So that's what they're going to do. They're going to have the secondary bid. Of course, that gets included in the same bid packet. It's not a separate bid packet. It's just a second bid that they put in that if you want this, it's going to be X amount of dollars difference. So right now we're waiting on the contractor that was hired by Wendell to actually tear portions of the stucco off the front of the building in order to investigate what's going on behind. This was a contractor out of Orchard Park that was recommended by Drive It, the people that make that stucco. Because what they're going to do, they're going to tear off and then they're going to repair it all at the same time. So when they tear it off, they look at it, and then the contractor's just going to put everything back the way it was. So that's why we're waiting on this. Company's name is Tim Sullivan, and again, they're out of Orchard Park. That's about it for the building. The gap coverage, there's not too much out there related to that yet. There's no cost. All it was is a directive by the state that that's what's going to happen. Insurance companies haven't come out with any kind of cost yet. There's been everything from including it in our workers' comp coverage to having individual municipalities pay for their own. We probably have anywhere from 15 to 20 people that would qualify for the village. One estimate, again, this is just, I don't know where the estimate came from, so I even hate to mention it, but somebody had mentioned $300 per person, so it's pretty simple math from there. If they do include it in your workers' comp, just so the board knows, workers' comp is actually somewhere around 56% of workers' comp is the actual experience that the village has for workers' comp. The rest of it, the 44%, is actually based on your taxable assessed value in the village. So that's maybe not the best way to go.
More expensive that way.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking is that, you're actually subsidizing other larger municipalities that might have more volunteers that would be eligible for that benefit. So, not that at the end of the day we would have a choice on that. Whatever way they decide to go, they'll go.
Any indication on when they would come along with that? Because
No,
it's
because the
it's
insurance-
halfway through our budget year, and
Yeah.
there's going to be a cost there to some degree.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. No, the governor just came out that this is what's going to happen. Insurance companies haven't caught up with it yet, so they don't even know how much to charge for the policy, so nobody knows anything about it. So they have to get the details behind it before they even underwrite the policies. So that's,
It doesn't sound like it's gonna be anything
And
anytime
it-
soon.
no?
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, I don't, that's what I mean. They put that directive out there, but with no guidance or anything to back it up as far as the costs or, how the program actually works.
With the directive, though, I would think that the volunteers are going to try to hold us to that directive then.
Oh, you will be held
We
to
will
that
be.
directive.
So
That's where they're
so-
It'll be a
so-
state
so
law.
it's going to
It's
be.
not, it's not
it's
only
a-
the volunteers, it's going to be a law.
Yeah, it's going to be a state law. It
Yeah.
is a
It is a state law,
Yeah.
so that would be mandatory for all interior firefighters.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you want to have a very well-served community with a well-served department that has, the interior firefighters, it's going to cost you a considerable amount of money now, above what you already
It's
do.
called Unfunded Mandates.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, thanks for
Another
the-
one.
One more.
Another
Yeah.
one.
Another one. The Village Hall steps, there's been a couple engineers that have taken a look at, actually, one of the engineers have taken a look at it. I got a hold of a company in Jamestown, Greenman Peterson. They actually came down, they're concerned with the structural integrity of the front steps. So they're sending in a structural engineer, which is, I told them that's exactly what they're looking for, the board, I mean, is looking for as far as what needs to be done there. I said, we don't want to put together something that in 10 years is going to fall apart again. We want to make sure it's done right. If the rest of the integrity of that step system needs to come out, gets rebuilt. And so they're having a structural engineer come down. The other engineer is Wendell. They haven't been down to take a look at it yet, but they want to give us a proposal on it also. And that would be the same girl that's working on the fire hall. She's a structural engineer.
Timelines on those?
No. Oh, Greenman Peterson said that they would have the structural engineer in here relatively soon.
Okay.
So I have no idea when. Now, the other portion of that was that I also contacted, for about the third or fourth time, the person that built the sign over there on Russell Joy Park, Hamlet Street.
Mhm.
He's going to give us, because we never answered him when I gave everybody the proposal as far as different types of stone that you could put there. We never answered him. I said, just put it back the way it was, brick,
Sure.
and let's just be done with it. And so he's going to come up with an estimate. He wanted to do the steps, but it's a little more convoluted because he's a smaller contractor. He would need the street department involved, and there's really no, he would just put it back the way it is currently, and I don't know whether that's the right thing to do. So I just told him, let's just concentrate you on getting the sign back up at Russell Joy, Hamlet Street Park. So that's what he's going to do. Takes care of village all steps. Wastewater treatment plant roll-offs. We didn't fall out on any roll-offs. The budget wasn't formulated with roll-offs in it. The budget was formulated with retrofitting a tractor that they had at the street department with a bucket. We put $3,000 in there.
I thought that's what we were going to be looking into, putting
It was a suggestion.
but I thought that was the cost.
That was before
To look
Perry
into
came up
in
with a
lieu of- in lieu of-
$3,000
Yeah, but in lieu
estimate.
of doing that, so I was wondering if that was something that we could do before the budget goes into effect.
There's no reason to do anything. The tractor that's there right now is functioning, so there's no reason to spend any additional money there right now.
Well, I didn't think the idea was not to spend money, additional money. The idea was that we were going to save money because we wouldn't have to be
Yeah, we were looking to utilize that dump truck.
right, utilizing the dump truck, and then Perry wouldn't have to send a man down there to transport.
No, we haven't done anything along that line because we did not have that mentioned in the budget. We just have the regular budget stuff. We never put any money in for that. We changed the whole capital appropriation. We had 10,000 in there, I think, for that, and then changed it when we talked about the tractor that was over at the street department. We changed it to $3,000. And that was, again, for retrofitting the tractor that Perry said was in excellent shape. It's working, it's running, and that we could use that inside that building in order to handle that material. So we don't have anything in there. Not to say that we couldn't swing the money to do that.
Well,
We could.
It may, but it may end up being a cost savings overall. I thought the idea was to get an idea of cost ahead of time, so that if it
Yeah,
was
well,
to-
that would be an operations type of thing, so I would have to tell the operators over there to do that, because
right.
I'm not qualified to do that. So they would have to measure it out as to what kind of dumpster goes in there, you know,
Correct.
what kind of dumpster will go out at the other place, and we can do that. That's not a big deal.
Okay, I think that's probably the direction to look at.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. The other thing is, while you were sleeping, the village was cited again by PESH. PESH is OSHA for public employees. These are the host of issues that they found throughout Village Hall, as well as the police department. So I've had contractors in here, and I've had electricians in here addressing each and every one of these. One of the things that you'll see written up in here is that they say the village doesn't have a workplace violence program. That's totally incorrect. We have it, it's posted, all of our documentation is in a file. Michelle wasn't here when they were going through, so he wrote it, even though he said he wasn't going to write it up, he wrote it up anyway, so that's been eliminated from this. The only thing that we're deficient on is the training. So we have to do an annual training for the workplace violence program. So that's a requirement. So we have to actually get that in order and make sure everybody signs off that they've had that training.
Who
Again,
implements
that's
the
an
training?
annual. We have actually a CD, and it's got it's like a PowerPoint presentation. So we just set it up at the street department. They could sit there and go through the,
So the department heads are kind of responsible for setting up the training for each
Yeah,
department?
that's probably the best way to go. Okay, and then you just work through it, make sure everybody knows.
Signs off on it?
Yeah,
Right.
and everybody knows what what the potential hazards are in their workplace, and to be cognizant of those.
Is there a form there already for them to sign off on that's already?
Oh, yeah, it's just a sign-off document.
Is there a deadline that we need to have this done by?
Yeah, we should have that done as soon as possible. I forget what they had on here. They probably
July
had
5th?
Sometime in July or something.
July 5th?
July 5th?
Must be abated by July 5th. Is that what it says right here in the bottom of the,
Mhm.
am I reading that right?
You are correct. July 5th for one, August 16th.
No, that's for the workplace violence program.
Yeah,
The training is later.
No.
Failed to inform the training risk, okay, I think it's August 16th.
But that'll cover
That's the
that'll cover these other citations? Is that what
No,
you're
the other
telling me?
citations are done. The only thing we're deficient
Oh, I
on
see.
is the training.
Okay.
Okay, that's the only thing. Now, the other thing, most of the stuff is due to electrical issues in a building that's 150 years old. I mean, there's not enough plugs in this building to accommodate, like, all the chip stuff over there, computers and,
We're a
printers
hazard
and
over
all of the stuff that goes in a modern
Right.
office. Plugs are at a premium in this building. Everybody will tell you that. So everybody has power strips, and we have everything from printers to space heaters to everything plugged into those things, which are illegal. If you have something with a heating element, it has to be plugged into the wall. So we have an electrician that's going to come in. I know Brad had something down in his dispatch area, some heater or something that needs to be replaced, so he's going to replace that. The problem is, I already talked to the guy and I said, you're not going to get it done on this schedule. There's no way. The guy already said that he's booked out through June. So he said that what he would attempt to do is to, any chance that he gets, if he works a job and he finishes it earlier than anticipated, he'll come in and do pieces, parts. And then, but he has us in his schedule right now for the full schedule. But in the interim, he'll do pieces here and there. Like all of the emergency lights in Village Hall, including the police department, I don't think any of them work. Most of them need batteries, so all it's going to be was swapping out the batteries. But any one that he finds that batteries still don't power him up, he's going to replace. I have a box of them in my office. He's going to replace ones that won't power up even with new batteries. So that's the plan.
We have maintenance, shouldn't we have someone, like we should have someone that does this monthly, checks them monthly, like I do, like my business, I have a monthly schedule, and I write down each month when and where I just check these things to make sure that they work. Isn't this something that we're supposed to have? I mean, we have a
As well as
a cleaning
secretary.
person, but we don't, but we
he
don't
wouldn't be
have
able to do it.
a maintenance man.
Well, I mean, when you're talking
I mean-
about like fire extinguishers being inspected and stuff like that, our own fire department should be doing
Right.
this.
Well, no, we actually have a company that
Yeah, out
comes
of
in and does
Jamestown.
those. Yeah, and they put tags on there that they're recent. The thing is, the same thing at the police department was cited for that also, that we haven't had training on how to use.
How to use a
fire
fire
hydrant, or a
Fire
fire
extinguisher.
extinguisher. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the fire department down here, take us out in the park and just show us how to use a fire
Right.
extinguisher.
Right.
Because I'm sure the police don't know how to use one, so.
And then the police guy's gonna show the fire guys how to use
They've
a
never
gun,
even seen a
right?
fire extinguisher. But everybody's gotta justify their existence.
But I'm just trying to look for what easier way to have this not be a problem in the future. And the solution to the issue is to have a regular person assigned to that regularly.
Well, the fire extinguishers are a no-brainer. I mean, the inspector comes in, he checks all it, what's their name? Do you
That's-
remember, Chuck?
Yeah.
But that's on an annual.
They come in
but
and
that's
they
on a-
just, yeah, they.
But that's on an annual basis. I'm talking
Right.
about a monthly basis.
Well, you don't have to check those on a monthly basis. They're an annual
He's
check.
talking about everything that happens. I mean, you have small issues in the village hall, and they become big issues because you don't have anybody to come and fix them at the right time, so.
It's cumbersome to do it on a monthly basis with the staff that you have. I mean, it's just, you're
He's
better off doing
imagining
it,
other
even if you
stuff.
did an annual.
Yes, I am.
In his
I'm-
dreams. Imagining more
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
Yes.
In the real
He's
world.
not-
Inspections are
Yeah,
inspections.
he's not
I mean,
thinking
you're gonna
about
get
the stuff.
Curb your
that he has. It's
imagination.
like another world, yes.
I guess I'm just hoping for
Hoping for the best.
hoping for the best that we could someday afford something as nice as that.
Uh-huh.
Like that, I like
Okay.
hope for the
All my
best.
stuff is done.
All yours is done?
Bill?
Everything's done. Even with
The heater?
exception of the heater. The heater is done.
Oh,
Clear
the heater,
dye,
okay.
But I talked to the guy today, and I reminded him that we have a generator, so all my emergency lighting issues went away. I reminded him we have an action plan for emergency evacuations, so actually my fire extinguisher issue went away with that.
So we should train everybody in the building as to where they're supposed to assemble in case of an emergency. That's the only thing that he
That's
said.
for, yeah, but we're done.
Yeah.
He broke it out for the police,
Yeah,
so we're done.
but.
You're a mess, but we're
Yeah,
done.
right. You're absolutely right. No, I know,
Okay,
yeah, but-
we're done.
But as far as the lighting, when I talked to him this morning, he said that those lights should come on even without the generator.
He didn't understand.
No, he said that even if because if there's a problem with the generator, like right now,
It's emergency
if there's a
lighting.
problem with the generator, those lights need to come on, whether you have a generator or you don't have a generator. But we're gonna have him come through and
Yeah.
change the batteries out. I'm sure 99% of them are gonna
It is
fire up
battery
with
issue.
batteries. Yeah,
But it is no longer an OSHA violation.
yeah,
That's triple redundancy.
yeah.
To have a generator
Exactly.
and then to have emergency lights on
Well,
top of
you know.
that is triple. And he admitted that to me because I talked to him in the afternoon.
Uh-huh.
And I said, "You're asking me to have triple redundancy downstairs?" I go, "That doesn't seem to make sense." And he goes, "No, you're right. If the generator comes on, you're fine."
Yeah, okay, good. Cross off another one. Then,
One question.
Oh, go ahead.
It says for the penalties and assessments, when you said you spoke with them about it, did he assure you that as long as you're working on getting an
No.
electrician, you got penalties and assessments on here?
no, we
I
have
don't
to
wanna be-
actually fill out additional paperwork in order to, yeah, get an extension. He doesn't see a problem with that. He said, but you have to fill out the paperwork before the expiration of the deadline that's on the form.
So then
So he knows which ones that we're gonna have problems with, which is basically all of them. I told him, you're working with an urban area where there's not a lot of contractors that do this type of work,
Mhm.
and they're busy, and they're hard to get in here, and they're not just gonna drop their other business because the
No, I
village of
understand.
Fredonia needs something.
So then those will be then filled out then?
Correct, yeah, he said that he would work with me to fill out the appropriate
Thank you.
forms
Okay.
before the end of the thing. He said if you could get some of them, some of those things done, great,
Great.
and then you don't have to fill out the form,
Okay,
so.
cool, thank you.
The other thing is the clock. The clock up there on the tower is ours. So I called Verdon Clock. First, I called our insurance company. Our insurance company, I had a meeting with the claims adjuster on Monday, the 7th, right after the fire. They went over there, they took pictures. I sent him pictures that I had on my phone. So that process is all in process. The clock that's in that tower is the same make as the one that's down there at the corner that the Timco's donated to the village, so that was a lucky thing. because I also had to talk to them about if you recall, we approved in the budget a maintenance agreement on that clock, the new one. Yeah, so I was talking to them about that, and then I mentioned about the clock and the clock tower over here. And so they came right down. That claim is now in process. You could see the clock is just to replace the clock in all of the mechanisms, about $27,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that does not include any cranes that are necessary to hoist those clocks to the tower. They will supply the labor. This $27,000 includes the labor to install them in their space, but not any other types of support. So I have to talk to the insurance company about that because they wanted an estimate, and I don't want to just give them this because I don't know how much a crane and an operator of the crane and anything else that might be involved in the installation of those clocks.
Who's been paying the premium on insurance for the clock?
That's all part of our insurance premium.
It's a general policy for the village?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they have a list of assets that the village owns, and that's on
And
the
that
list.
church clock is on there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rick, when you say church clock, isn't there 4 of them on that?
Yeah.
So we're all 4
I think there's
damaged?
one mechanism
One
that
mechanism
runs
with
4
4
phases.
phases. Okay.
Right.
At this time here, would it be, if we're going to be replacing them, would it make any sense to get the right size for our tower here and replace them into our village hall where they were originally supposed to be? What is anybody's thoughts on that? I mean, I don't know if that would make any
I
difference.
wondered the same thing.
Because this would be the perfect opportunity to do that. If we're going to replace the faces and the mechanism.
Now, I found the article about the clocks. Each one of those faces of the clock weigh 540 pounds. I don't know what they weigh right now, the new ones with the technology of today's technology. But when they put them up there, they were 540 pounds apiece. So I'm not sure that these louvers up here will support at that much weight. So I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that out there. Whether you can have that reinforced or do whatever you want, but that's going to all be on your nickel because that's not going to be.
Well,
part
if you
of
get the
insurance.
spec information on these clocks, and
What's that?
we can get the spec information of what they're putting in and the weights and measures and the rest of the
Yeah,
stuff.
they're doing the same. They're doing a
To be
replacement.
done upstairs, if you come to the decision that this is what you want to do, like how much support needs upstairs, how much redone to be redone up there.
And at this point, that's why I asked Pastor Scott here to come. I don't even know what your church's plans are, whether the church actually
Yeah.
still wants them up there or not,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, so.
the same question, if you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some discussions as a board actually, and after talking with our insurance company, they would ultimately prefer not to have the clock, the village property back in our tower,
Not
just for,
surprised.
they don't love insuring something that ultimately belongs to someone else.
not insuring that. That's insured.
Right, but the structure itself, they find it a little too muddy for them.
Okay.
So they've encouraged us to consider, using this as the opportunity to kind of separate that.
Okay.
And our board is in favor of that as well. We'll still plan on most likely putting some sort of clock back in, but it'll probably be just something that we ultimately, put in ourselves at home.
So is there a need to put in another clock if they put in a clock?
No,
No.
no.
Because you got a clock there
Just to
then?
make sure though, it's not definite, because ultimately our insurance, we would have to pay that above our normal insurance cost because we didn't
Yeah,
have.
if you put a clock, another clock right across,
Right, right.
Yeah.
and another clock in the front.
Right.
We have-
We'll all know exactly what time it is.
If you're late, you're dead.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this is what we're looking at as far as the clock, okay? So that's.
Well, that's something we need to discuss. I mean,
Right.
Spending $27,000.
but it might be different to fit our need now.
We don't have
This is
any,
just to fit there, correct? This
Well-
quote was to replace the original clock that was next door, correct?
Yeah, but I.
But our building might not support this proposal. So you're saying we may be able to get a lesser clock or a smaller clock? Or
But the question
something
is, do
less
you need
weight.
a clock?
Do it-
We need a clock at all.
Yeah. Right.
I want
mean,
the
if there's a
temperature.
clock there
I want
and a
something that
clock
tells
there.
me what
A
what
sundial.
temperature it is. There you go.
And most everybody goes like.
A cuckoo.
this When they want to look at a clock.
Well, I would assume anything that's being done to our village hall would be subject to the historic preservation,
Mm-hmm.
all
Oh,
that. So,
absolutely.
I mean,
Anything on the outside.
it's not going to be simple, and it would be probably very,
Yeah, complicated.
You know what would be cool, just off the top of my head? Panels showing like artwork that has to do something like with our region or our village. You know what I mean? Grapes or
Start
Mark
painting.
Twain
I
or.
think originally that's what it was, right? Dr. Barris, you told me so, right? Like originally,
On the village hall?
yes. On the,
You know, some
I didn't
relief.
say that.
okay, well, somebody did.
I don't know.
Would the-
That would be cool, but
Covered
There was
in
some
ivy.
artwork around it, not a clock.
then someone's got to trim it.
Yeah.
I have a question.
I'm in
Because it's
favor
an
of not
asset
getting
to
the
the of the village, and there was a value to it. Does then the insurance company reimburse us the current value of it, even if we're not replacing it?
Yeah, you got a replacement value, but you got a $10,000 deductible.
so you're looking at
So if it's
16.
$27,000,
17.
you're gonna end up paying 17,000. Or
If you-
10,000, I'm sorry.
10,000, right, so that's if you were replacing it though, because it has a value of an asset, is there value to the village? For, in other words, a cash value back to the village for,
Maybe we can spend, like, it's gonna cost less money next year, and I don't know, like $25 less. Probably that's what,
not just the insurance cost,
but to give us
to-
back money.
Yeah, in
Right.
other words, because it was had a value of an asset to the village, so does it have value from the insurance company, even if we're not replacing anything? In other words,
That's the
will we get our
reason.
cash
You get it?
return?
Jim wants a check.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, what, though, you also got to consider the historic value of this as well. This is not something that I think should be taken lightly, just to
No,
scrap out
but I'm
of,
just,
out of,
it's for
I think it's up to
conversation.
you to replace it. If you don't want to replace it, they cut you a check.
That's what I
mean,
wanted to
that's-
know.
Yeah, I think that's the case, like, with a car. You
With a
smash
water
up a car, you have a
Well, maybe-
$10,000
Tractor
deductible,
problems,
you
I
pay
know.
$10,000, they
but I mean-
reimburse you the difference between the
We have a
book value.
beautiful
That's-
clock donated by Timco on the corner.
That was my question.
Historical Society.
Right, the Preservation Society and,
Society.
and the people from the Opera House, and like maybe there should be a meeting to talk about maybe
Yeah,
what
if we
we
don't
want
have
to
to
do
make a
moving
decision on
forward.
this now, that would be
No.
good.
No, it's not, it's
You know,
not
get some
something-
public input,
We
maybe, I
just,
don't know.
we just need to get this, I need to get this claim through the insurance company. I got a lot of work to do as far as all this paperwork that I need to do.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's
Most
it could be in a
most
claim,
probably,
then-
the clock is not going to be replaced, as I understand
Yeah.
the general.
Yeah, I mean, there would be no reason for it, but, I don't know if you ever been at Buff State? Have you ever been Buff State on the?
Yes, I have.
Mhm.
You know how they project the artwork on the side of the
Oh, yeah.
Birchfield Penny
Yes,
Art
right, yes.
Gallery?
Mhm.
That's pretty cool. Is that what you're talking about here?
Well, I think, I mean, if they're gonna have a clock of some sort, we don't need another clock. But it would be nice to do, if we've got, for the historical, I guess,
Okay.
aspect of the city, it would be nice to put something,
I know the Opera House has been
Historical.
interested in possibly putting on a kiosk or
No,
yeah,
marquee.
a marquee, that's the
A
word I was
marquee,
looking for.
yes.
I know the
And I-
Opera House is looking to possibly
very much.
entertain us with a marquee.
oh.
Yeah,
Think maybe that would, something we could.
Remember the one, there used to be the one out
Yes.
on the side on
And
Temple
that's what-
Street?
that-
They actually have some information, and we can talk to the Opera House. They
Yeah.
come in and give a presentation.
But
They've been
that-
working on different
Mhm.
architectural
Yeah, we have two or three
designs to fit
Sure.
our building.
But what you're talking about is using the cash return, because what he's talking about is replacement costs, is an actual replacement. They're not gonna say, well, we'll give you that full value to build something different.
Right, right.
Um,
No, we're just gonna cash out.
Well, we have to
This is-
find out
this
all
is-
these little,
no, I think one of the marquees that they're looking at, it's about $50,000. The best one, I
Right.
think, is about $50,000, which means like if we get
That would be
$7,000
nice.
from here, or
Might be able
something
to
like
help
that,
offset some of the
and
costs.
might
Mhm.
be able to help,
Right.
exactly.
Because they're already looking into the structural engineering and the rest of it to support that on our.
That would be really nice, I think.
I think it'd be cool.
Be very attractive, people would stop.
Yes, and people will start knowing
Right.
that something is going on in
Right,
there.
yeah, it's a great idea.
In terms of the historic value, for the first 35 years of the church's existence, it did not have a clock. So there was a painting in the Barker Museum which shows the common with the church. And the church has a pyramidal tower. So no clock,
There you go.
okay? The clock was added in 1891.
I personally like the clock. I think it's nice to have a clock up there.
I think everyone has watches generally these days or
I don't want to look at
iPhones.
my phone. I want to look at a
So-
pretty clock.
Well, they're gonna put it.
They're gonna,
I know.
they're gonna put their own.
Yeah.
There
It's
there
gonna
are
be
other
their
clocks around the common.
But I need to look at that one.
But we can
Make sure,
always
you know,
time
we have to go
this
through
time.
zoning, and we have to
As
go
far as
through, you know,
Rick's needing
design.
to do his paperwork, we're not going to be buying the clock for the
Well, I
other
don't think
check.
we're gonna have to specify that to the
Or
insurance
chime,
company. It's
or
just
ring.
verifying the loss, filling out all the paperwork associated with the loss, and then letting them make the determination, then they'll cut you the check.
Okay,
I mean, it was like when the playground burned. I mean, we got the check for the playground, we didn't replace the playground until the following year. So the insurance company reimbursed us.
Okay.
We had a $10,000 deductible, which the Joys donated to.
mhm.
And then we replaced it, you know. but-
Are we responsible to get the mechanism and the clock faces off and out? Do you know who's all?
No, I assume that's all gonna be torn down, right?
Part of the scrap.
Yeah, there'll be engineers on site Thursday to determine
Yeah.
how to get the tower down. Our insurance hasn't said anything about, you know, the village being responsible for taking the clock out,
Mhm.
so, not to my knowledge.
We want
but-
our clock.
You want it? You can have half of it.
Perry wants
The
to
other
put on
half is
Eagle Street
gone.
with all the rest of the stuff he's got on Eagle Street.
Whatever we can get out.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's move on. Other trustees' report, just to give each trustee an opportunity to give a report if they have one.
I
And
have a
know
yeah, I
you
have a
do,
small,
yes.
as
I
part of
know
the
you do.
as part of the LED lighting committee, we haven't quite advanced into getting street lighting done, but I was approached by a company called JAT Energy Services. AJ Dulce is a representative in our area, and he happened to let me know that they're willing to give us 2 samples, LED light samples, to be used in Barker Commons. It's a 36 watt and a 27 watt LED equivalent that produces 3000 K and or 4000 K lighting, or hue, I guess is what they use, to free of charge, and they want to give us 2 bulbs as samples to put in our park to allow the public to take a look to see
Difference.
the difference in
Right,
colors.
yeah.
If you want something a little brighter, if you
Sure.
want to keep, the lighter bulb is kind of more or less what we have now. It's going to give off the same hue and the same look and the same, but it's going to save us an energy cost. It's just a bulb, basically. The other one's a little bit more brighter, but again, it's going to save us in energy costs.
Yeah.
These are just replacement bulbs. We don't have to modify anything with the head units. They're just a screw-in adaptation. And then it's pretty simple. It's just like Perry ordering a new light bulb, but they're going to be LEDs.
So Perry be able to.
Absolutely. And the cost on those are pretty similar to what we're spending in regular bulbs now. And they do have a 5-year guarantee on them. So just another way to save a little money and have a little
And this
LED
is going to
light.
be for the 8 bulbs?
Yes,
in the-
just
on the-
Barker
the park.
Commons. Yeah. So we'll be getting a couple of those samples in the next couple of days. I'll give them to Perry. Once they're put in the park, I recommended putting one on either side of the park. One in one park, one in the other. So as, you drive by and you happen to notice. Right now, Village of Silver Creek went with the lower watt, if anyone's interested. All their bulbs have been replaced by this company. So the Silver Creek parks right now have the lighting in. So if you ever go through Silver Creek and you have
Put
to look
something
over.
around the pole that
Yeah.
they mark so that people realize which exactly which
Yeah.
one would be nice.
Yeah, it's a little sign or something.
No additional cost to us.
No
It's just
cost to us,
Just
right.
just a bulb replacement, and we're gonna start going with a little more LEDs and
Right.
more efficient. And that's all my report for tonight.
Thank you very much. Any other trustee be?
Just real briefly, if you're talking about days in, I think that problem, Brad, if I'm not mistaken, that's been going on for years, correct? It's not a recent problem, but just so we're aware, it's not something that just cropped up. This has been,
I don't know how long the county has been using it as a temporary housing situation. But we have been going out there for domestic drug-related issues where individuals have rented it overnight for party purposes for numerous years. I really don't know when the county started their routine. And just for a little bit of clarification, it's my understanding it's not just like recently released inmates. It's like emergency housing for anybody who's utilizing social services. And I've been told it's temporary until they find them permanent housing. There are times when there's 40 rooms rented. On average, they're running about 25 rooms a day for emergency housing, long-term. Long-term temporary, it's kind of an oxymoron, but you know, they're there for weeks at a time with the intention of moving on. But I really don't know when it started.
Yeah, and I said recently released because that's the term that the county executive used this morning. So, I mean, he was aware of the situation and of the problem. So I'm hoping that something is going to come up because, you know, it costs the village taxpayers money. And not to mention that, as I said, this is the only hotel we have right now. And that's not good to have something like that.
just to touch 2 weekends ago with the fire and Fred Fest. We talked about municipal cooperation. The fire was a perfect example. We had multiple fire agencies and we all worked together. Following Saturday, day after, I did a ride along also with Chief Myers, and it was a perfect example of shared service cooperation, municipal cooperation with all the police agencies there. It would not have turned out the way it did with, I don't think, without the cooperation and the assistance of everybody involved. So.
That's 100% accurate. Yeah, if it weren't for University Police, Dunkirk Police, Sheriff's Department, State Police, we definitely needed their resources in addition to all hands on deck within the Fredonia Police Department. And we have a signed memorandum of understanding with all those law enforcement agencies. Whenever we talk about shared services, we in the law enforcement industry kind of chuckle because we've been doing it for 2 centuries. You know, we all ebb and flow back and forth on a regular basis, just like in the fire industry. Mm-hmm. The only ones who struggle with it are even the DPWs go back and forth constantly. It's informal. It's all done under memorandums of understanding that are all signed for so that there are no liability issues associated with it. We entered into this memorandum over 10 years ago, and we use it constantly in law enforcement.
But it was lucky that they were able to. They didn't have something else to.
And that's an important point to make. There have been years where I've put agencies on notice that we may be calling upon them for assistance. They're under no obligation to put additional people on for me. There have been years where we haven't gotten the resources to the extent that we had them this past weekend. We were fortunate that the Sheriff's Department and State Police bolstered their road patrol force. In years past, due to budgetary issues, they may not have been able to do that. The University Police were able to come and respond because they're no longer holding functions on the campus. So they're able to leave the campus and come and assist us. But there's no guarantee from year to year we're going to get that kind of response from those agencies. You're absolutely correct.
And I just want to mention something that really started my whole thinking. I called Chief Myers on Sunday to just talk a little bit as to what happened exactly. And he said, this and this and this and this, we got through it. And it hit me. This is not a good sentence. It's not, you shouldn't get through it. This was supposed to be a fun weekend. This was not a war, a fire, an emergency that we got through it. So I really think we should discuss it a bit more and see what we can get with that. Well, can you please give us a report if you have anything else to say?
Well, I really do think that
I compliment the Observer on the way they broke it down. I think the article was really easy to read. You could see the arrests we made. We were at roughly 78 arrests for roughly 134 charges. Those numbers could have been significantly higher. Obviously, everything stopped when the structure fire occurred. We actually had to abandon Village Hall. Our smoke alarms went off. We had individuals that were locked up that we released with appearance tickets just for the safety of all involved. There was a short period of time where we were without electricity because our generator had gone down several weeks ago. Niagara Mohawk did an amazing job of rerouting power and getting us backing up very, very quickly. So that was Friday night. On Saturday night, we had a huge influx, and Doug, you had the pleasure of witnessing it. We had a huge influx of out-of-town individuals. The Grange they did not host. Don't use the term host. They did not host. They rented the facility to a rapper out of Buffalo to do a Buff State meets Fredonia State event on Fred Fest weekend. The original intent, well, the ad showed $10 a head. I think most of the individuals that came down here thought that was going to include alcohol. And they got here and discovered it didn't include alcohol, and they came down in the hundreds. In the hundreds, they came down. And when they came here and discovered there wasn't alcohol involved, they didn't go. They lowered the price to $5, they still didn't go. They made it free, they didn't go. Instead, they went out onto the streets and hung out on the streets of Fredonia. They found a house party to go to and took over a home with hundreds of individuals inside that home. We broke that house party up twice during that night. They eventually went to another home and a much smaller group took over that house for a house party. In the days that followed, we heard of several assaults that occurred where police were just simply not notified. Individuals were just loaded in cars and taken away. There were clearly gang factions here. There were clearly individuals wearing gang colors from the Buffalo area in the hundreds. And we just simply stopped making arrests, and for 2 hours just patrolled and made sure that if anybody wanted to do some harm to somebody, they knew they wouldn't be able to get away. And that prevented anything more serious from happening. Information we received in the days following was it was clear that they came down here with the intent to have a fight amongst themselves, but we were very, very fortunate to prevent that from occurring. That said, if you remove that event from the weekend, I think we did make some headway. I think we are starting to move towards minimizing the event. Forest Place was very few parties, if any. Center Street had one large party in the backyard. White Street and Canada Street seemed to be the big two focal points. We took a little different tack this year. We actually ended up barricading off Canada Way Street, kicking everybody off of White Street, and letting them have Canada Way Street because there's no businesses there and there's no owner-occupied housing there. White Street, there are several businesses on and there's some owner-occupied housing. That worked well. That is not a solution to the problem. We also saturated that area with patrol officers on foot. Doug and I waded into that a couple times, but you could clearly go onto the Water Street parking lot and see individuals utilizing the backyards to relieve themselves into the creek. There are individuals throwing beer cans into the creek and things of that nature. But it did help to minimize any incidents beyond Canada Way Street. The day following, Sunday, if you walked around here by 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, you would not have known the weekend occurred. Several groups, college groups and local groups, did an amazing job of cleaning up the village. You wouldn't have even known it happened. The DPW had the street sweeper out Sunday morning. So I think we're getting there. I know I've talked with the president of the Grange, and we've had a conversation. I feel very confident when I tell you that mistake won't happen again. And I think we may be making headway. The obvious concern is, I hope that the individuals that came down here for that event don't use their time here this year as a reason to come back next year. That's my yeah, or in between. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Brad, with the exception of that group, when the bars and the establishments closed at 2, it was like a ghost town here, except that one group of 200 or 300 people that went from house to the other house to set up, and it was at 3:30. They were still at that house.
Yeah, they were still at that house, and there was an assault at that house, and there was a weapon brandished at that house from someone who came back and shared that information with us. We didn't see it, and we were never called at the time of the incident. And again, that was that group that was brought here, I think, totally incidental to Fred Fest.
Thank you very much. I apologize. Kara, you
That's
have a
okay. I
comment?
just thought since Tom is here, I'd talk a little bit about the Parks and Rec. We did the playground walkthrough a couple weeks ago. So getting ready for summer, and I guess there's a lot of people playing pickleball, which is excellent. That's what we want up at Russell Joy. Doug, you were at the playground walkthrough. Anything else you want to mention about?
I think we're going to do a lot of the fall protection.
The roof, we talked about the need for how much we needed to pay for the roof for
Yeah,
the
we looked at Russell
pavilion.
Joy Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might have to Perry was
Revisit
supposed to
that.
get together with Jude Gardner and revisit that to see, because
That's right.
when we looked through there with one of the individuals, Roger Papis, he said you could probably build a new pavilion for 38 grand.
For the, right.
So that, obviously, I'm not sure if that was a legitimate, not necessarily legitimate, but a true
An
figure.
accurate.
Figure.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, cable board, I think we are close, thanks to Dan for coming to our last meeting. His presence really helped move things forward. Chip was also there. I don't know if Chip wants to add anything, but I think we're close to a new contract. So that's good news, because it's been many years. So, okay.
In addition to the Parks Recreation, the mayor at one meeting there asked me to take charge of the trolley program, which we did. I met with Trustee Britz, Parks Recreation Director, Mr. Pataglia, and Todd Langworthy from the town of Pomfret, who was actually working with Pat Demore currently on it. We came up with a draft of kind of a policy here, and just something to look over that I hope maybe in the next meeting, maybe we could, if there's any changes or additions, that we could look it over and make those and maybe put this into policy by next meeting. So this is just something we brainstormed one Sunday morning, and they're crisscrossed, there are 2 pages to it. Well, you got mine?
Extra. I think I can go back.
Your notes?
Yep. So if we could, if the trustees could review that, and if you come up with any other suggestions, that would be super. If not, I'd like to bring it, I'll put that on the agenda at the next meeting to adopt possibly, so, thank you.
Right. Anything else? Okay, and Chief Walker is not here. He's on vacation, and who can blame him? So, but I have his report, and the report is as follows. Mayor, the fire department started off non-Fred Fest weekend Friday night with a structure fire at Family Church, with the fire greatly affecting the flow of vehicular and pedestrian traffic on Temple Street between Central and Main. Working with National Grid, we were able to turn off the power along Temple Street. National Grid was able to reroute power to keep Village Hall powered as the generator was down, and the traffic lights at Temple and Church and Main and Temple, Water Street. During the outage, we were able to use the Chautauqua County Fire Police response team to control traffic in these areas, which freed up Fredonia police officers to handle the Not Fred Fest activities. I would like to personally thank the assistance of City of Dunkirk Fire Department, East Dunkirk Fire Department for their rehab services, Brockton and Casadarga for their ambulances, and Chautauqua County Fire Police Response Team for traffic control. Village of Fredonia Street Department and Police Department for their assistance while dealing with an already busy weekend for them. As for the rest of the fest, through AM Sunday morning, we responded to 16 more calls for assistance. 8 of those calls were directly related to Not Fred Fest. There was a typical called volume for the fire department during a weekend which, while college is in session. In other words, they didn't have any extra or any more calls than usual, so that's good. And thank you for that. All right, moving along, we have a new code, proposed code for alcohol on village property. And maybe Kara wants to give us a little bit of
We met,
an idea.
the committee met probably 3 or 4 times. We met with our insurance provider. Brad was there. Dan came to a meeting. And we asked Dan to come up with some language to change, not to just tweak the code so that we can allow, within reason and within certain guidelines, to have alcohol in the park for certain events, and it would obviously have to be approved by us before we did that. I don't know if Dan wants to talk a little bit about what he did to the
Sure.
the wording and whatnot.
Basically, all we did is we added one more exception to the 2 exceptions that are already there to the general rule that there's no consumption of alcohol on public property. That's what pretty much all that section of Chapter 81 is about. We added just a simple exception that says the board may, when they feel it's appropriate, suspend the provisions of that chapter according to the guidelines that we discussed. And that just because it's something that's new and it's going to require a little tweaking, I made the applications and guidelines that we discussed to be done by resolution, the adoption by resolution, rather than specifically putting them in the local law, so that we can change it by resolution without having to change the law every time we want to change a fee or we want to designate a different area for a specific event.
And did we make an adjustment to the parks not requiring a resolution for use of it? We were going to remove, because we haven't never followed it. I remember, Doug, we were going to remove the prerequisite that in order to have alcohol at Russell Joy Park for a family function, you actually needed a board resolution.
Chief, there is a section in there on that. That wasn't what I was concentrating on. So
Yeah.
I think that's maybe a separate issue from what this is.
There are 2 exceptions. This is a 3rd one. I believe from looking at it, I believe the exception right before this concerns what you're talking about.
Okay, so maybe we did it. I know we wanted to. I know we wanted to make it so that the board no longer had to have a resolution for a family reunion at Russell Joy Park.
Chief, I'll take a look at that, and we can just, because we can't really adopt, we're not ready to propose this tonight, I can tweak that and add that if you guys would like.
In addition to that, though, we have to remove open container law and/or the having alcohol in public places law, local law, correct?
The alcohol in public places, open container law, that's all Chapter 81, and so this exception, if you look at the language that I passed out, would allow, what it's, and I'll just read it real quick. It says the board may, in its discretion and by resolution, suspend the provisions of this chapter in a designated area of the village or a designated public event. The board shall approve or deny by resolution all applications for alcohol sales under this exception and shall by resolution determine the requirements of such applications. I worked with our insurance provider as well as trustees, coming up with an application, and that would be that application itself would be adopted by resolution after the local laws pass.
Okay, that's right.
So I'm thinking we need to have a public hearing on this. We need to look at this, then we need to have a public hearing before we can,
So I think we can discuss it on the next workshop.
okay.
Have the resolution for public hearing 2 weeks from today. And then in 2 weeks, we have the public hearing and the adaptation of the new law.
And it can be voted on right after the hearing. That's the way it's usually done.
So I think that's the best timeline. So it gives the board time to review it and see if they want anything else.
Sure.
And all that. All right, very good, thank you, very good work. And I think we go along the same lines with the food trucks. Because it's a new thing, food trucks were never allowed in the village of Fredonia, and this is a new thing. It's kind of longer and a little more in need of explaining some things. I think we covered pretty much everything. I have to say that the committee worked very, very well. So I would like to discuss that on the next workshop as well. So to give you time to review everything, give the board time to review it instead of starting reading right now. Okay. Village hall repairs. What's that? I didn't put it there.
I think you already talked about.
Yeah.
Oh, we just did,
You'll
the
discuss
steps.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And the fire hall, again, we discussed it. Not Fred Fest, the only thing I have to say is that I'm reconvening the committee, and I've reached out to you, and Kara, to you as well, to see if we can do something more next time, and what it is, and then we can come to the board to see if, they agree with your suggestions. Number 6, Acting Mayor, I believe Dan said that we should wait for this, is that correct, for next week?
Yes, Mayor, I'm still having a conversation with NICOM. It's more belt and suspenders. I think I know what we need to do, but I want to double check.
Okay, very good, so, wait for that as well. The trolley is, I believe, Doug, is the what you gave us?
That's correct.
All right, okay. So that we'll be discussing in the next meeting. Meeting procedures.
I brought that up here. You had changed the procedures here without any discussion with the trustees here. It seems to be working okay, but it's kind of, the trustees, by Chapter 63, Section 1, will determine the rules of our procedures here, and this was done without even any consultation.
The trustees should be required to do that for a meeting. This is a workshop. I asked Dan, and Dan said that it's fine. For me, I didn't change anything really. I just changed the order. As the chair of this board, I think I can do that. I thought this is going to work better. So we give you the opportunity to know what I know, the other trustees to know what you know, and have the discussion based on that. As a doctor, when you first come to me, if you are a patient, the first thing I ask is how you are doing, current situation. That's a report. And then from the report, I go towards discussing old problems, new problems, discussing your medication, and go to the actual meeting when you adopt the resolutions. So I thought this was the best way of doing it. As a matter of fact, I would propose that the reports should go into the meeting and not the workshop. Workshop is, am I correct? The reports should go to the actual meetings instead of the workshop. But
And just, Mayor, if I might, when the mayor asked me the question, the position I took was that the code authorizes the mayor specifically to run the meetings. The organization of the agenda is kind of her bailiwick on this thing. Yes, the board controls, the content of the meetings, but I think that's well within the mayor's duties to basically organize the meetings.
I don't think that's what our charter says. I
I believe it is, Doug, when you said it.
I believe the mayor presides at our meetings, that's what it says.
And she has the duty to maintain good order. It's the organizational portion. It's not really a power thing. It's just a organizational thing.
Okay.
Okay, let's go next one, this comprehensive plan.
I brought up Chuck, if we could, if you met with your zoning board or planning board with, to get a hold of the engineering firm or whoever did our, could we do that?
No, that's really, I think the village board needs to do that, not the planning board. They work with them, but there's monies that are gonna have to be expended that the planning board doesn't have the power to do. I think the village board needs to interview, find out who they want to hire, and that's the route you should take. Meantime, right now, we've been busy with trying to get these laws going, and
Rental,
we're real close to getting the property maintenance law coming back, or the rental law coming back to you guys for approval. And then I'd like to get a property maintenance code going very quickly, because our property maintenance law is just terrible.
and I have to tell you that the planning board has been working very well. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so glad, because we gave you the new rental law recommendations. You worked through it
Yeah.
very quickly, very efficiently.
They did
I'm
real
very
good.
thankful for that.
They actually met even above and beyond their meetings. They actually met and stuff, so that was real nice, where they didn't hold it to just once a month. We actually would go every couple of weeks until we pounded out something, and it's just about done, so.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Is any of the rest of the board concerned about our comprehensive plan, that we should be moving forward on this, or I'll drop it if the board doesn't see any?
I think we should go to June 1st, after we have the money in place, because we're gonna need money. You're gonna need to approve money.
That was what we discussed earlier. We're going to need the money to hire the company, the engineering group to work again, and that doesn't come until,
Are we all set to do that, though? I mean, once June 1st comes, we can figure out the company that did it and just move
Sure.
forward?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think we should.
we should.
For
yeah.
sure.
We discussed that before, is that
Yeah.
what we would do, and I think that's what we should do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Very good. And then we have new business, justice report for April 2018, which you have. The fire department report for April 2018. We have addition to the fire department roles. The volunteer fire department expected duties and operations for the coming year. Then the bid tabulations for fuel and water meters. NICOM member dues for 2018-2019. And then Jim, I think you put that in part-time grant writer prep for resolution.
Yeah, if we could be prepared for the opportunity for part-time grant writer that was proposed with Nate Aldrich and Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation was going to fund the other half of the cost, and we had put that into the.
They didn't promise that yet.
They didn't promise it yet.
They didn't promise
Okay.
it yet. Okay, that's
So then we're
let's
going to.
keep it in that.
All right, so then we'll have, as far as the amount of funding to work with Nate.
So we put $5,000.
We put $5,000,
$5,000.
so then we can move forward to allow him to utilize that funding
Well, I guess after the 1st of June.
after the 1st of June.
He's working into, how we can use this money in the best possible way. I think an assistant to him, specifically assigned to the Village of Fredonia, would be very helpful. So maybe that's going to be where we're going. But he's going to propose something. He's going to have a proposal for you to review and approve.
Okay, well, that's fine, because that's what I'm looking for. There's a great need for grant writing. What's that?
Are we paying for this? Or where are we getting it?
$5,000.
Yeah,
Where are we getting the money from?
From the
It's-
community improvement, is that how you call it?
Oh, community development?
Yeah, we.
Is that where we put it in the budget
we
line
did
for that?
put
Is
it-
that
Yeah,
what-
we did put it in there, we took it from that area.
Yeah.
And it was established during
Alright.
the budget process.
And he's gonna put together a proposal? Or
Yes.
put together
Yes,
some?
yes, we're working together to see how, what way is the best to do that. All right, then we review resolutions, request for Fredonia Chamber to use tourist info booth and surrounding area for Attic and Sellers Day, June 1st to the 3rd, 2018. Have the request from Fredonia First United Methodist Church to use the Barker Common and gazebo for chicken barbecue. It's because usually they do it in their backyard, but now because of the structures and the demolition going on next door, they can. Where are we? Okay. Training request for Fire Chief Ryan Walker to attend the 2018 Fire Industry Rescue and EMS Expo. Training request for volunteer firefighters Anthony DeRusso, Ryan Fisk, Dan Aldridge, Tyler DeRusso, and Kurt Matum to attend the 2018 Fire Industry Rescue and EMS Expo. This is a $3,250.81 village share. That is not in the budget, I believe.
Who pays the other share?
The volunteers.
The volunteers pay the rest,
The other- yeah, the
but
other.
is this in the budget, the $3,000?
I don't have the budget here. I know we cut that to the bone.
So this is not included.
I will just have to make a transfer, a budget transfer into that line.
Recommendation of Vegislide to award bid for liquid chlorine. Recommendation of Vegislide to award bid to synthetic flocculant. Recommendation of Vegislide to award bid ferrichloride. Recommendation of Chris Surma to award bid to polyaluminum chloride. Recommendation of Chris Surma to award bid for polyorthophosphate. Recommendation of Chris Surma to award bid for powered blend of inorganic phosphates. And recommendation of Chris Surma to award bid for polycationic polymer. Finally. All right. Should we go to the actual meeting before the executive because it's almost 8? Is that all right? with all?
That's fine.
Sure.
Right, guys. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, I call this meeting order, duly called and held on the 14th day of May 2018 at 7:30 p.m., actually 7:50 p.m. in the Trustees Room, second floor, Village Hall, Fredonia, New York. And public notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given to the news media and conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations in accordance with Section 104 of the Open Meetings Law.
Can't do this one. Someone else is going to have to read that. I wasn't at the meeting.
Oh, okay. Dr. Barres, can you do that? Yes.
Whereas members of this board present at this meeting have read the official minutes of the Board of Trustees regular meeting of April 23rd, 2018. Now, therefore, be it resolved, this board approves the minutes as entered into the official minutes, and be it further resolved that the reading of the minutes be dispensed with.
I second.
Trustee Barres.
Aye.
Trustee Christina, you abstain. Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Bridge.
Aye.
Trustee Essex.
Yes.
Are the reports?
We have two reports tonight. We have the Justice Report for the month of April 2018. There were a total of 191 cases heard, 91 traffic and vehicle, 48 criminal, 36 village ordinance, and 9 civil cases, and 7 ABCs. Total fees, parking tickets, fines, and surcharges of $18,443 collected. Then we have the fire department report for the month of April 2018. Total of 154 calls, 114 were rescue and EMS, 19 false alarms and false calls, 6 each of hazardous conditions and service calls, and 2 fires. And that's it for reports.
Correspondence was received from Heidi Sidon of Fredonia Chamber of Commerce requesting the use of the tourist information booth and area surrounding the tourist information booth for the annual 20 miles of attic and cellar days, June 1st to the 3rd, 2018, and have the police department bag meters in front of the tourist information booth.
Be it resolved, the request from the Fredonia Chamber of Commerce to use the tourist information booth and surrounding area of the tourist information booth for its annual attic and cellar days on June 1 through 3rd, 2018 is hereby approved, and be it further resolved that the Fredonia Police Department bag the parking meters on Main Street, Route 20, in front of the tourist information in connection with the annual attic and cellar days.
I'll second that motion.
Trustee Barris.
I vote yes.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Correspondence was received from the Fredonia Volunteer Fire Department advising the board that they held their annual meeting and approved the attached list of expected duties and operations for the coming year. Correspondence was received from the Secretary of the Fredonia Volunteer Fire Department to add Emily Barbosa to the active roles.
Be it resolved that the name of Emily Barbosa, Forest Place, Fredonia, is hereby added to the active roles of the J.S. Lambert Hook and Ladder Company effective immediately.
I second the resolution. I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Correspondence was received from June Ruckman, Youth Director of Fredonia First United Methodist Church, requesting permission to use Barker Common and the gazebo on Saturday, May 19th, 2018, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. for the Cervedas Chicken Barbecue Youth Fundraiser.
Be it resolved that permission is hereby granted to First United Methodist Church to use Barker Common and the gazebo for a Chevetta's Chicken Barbecue Youth Fundraiser on Saturday, May 19, 2018, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And be it further resolved that the above use of the gazebo is subject to the direction of the Fredonia Police Department. And be it further resolved that this resolution is subject to the receipt of certificate of insurance naming the Village of Fredonia as an additional insured in the amount of $1 million.
I second.
I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Open the public portion. Anybody from the public portion? Pastor.
Pastor Scott Wise, the associate pastor across the street at Family Church. One of the things I wanted to discuss, we already did, was the clock itself. Just another couple of points we wanted to mention. We wanted to publicly thank the village, but also the police department and the Fredonia Fire Department for their services during the fire. We're very, very grateful for the quick response that they had and the extensive trainings that they've undergone that allowed them to do the quick action that they did to help save our building. So we're very thankful for that. And also, we just wanted to let the village make you all aware that we are fully intending to rebuild, restore the building to its former glory, even more than it was before. So we just want to reassure everyone on that part that we're excited about what it's going to turn into, what it's going to look like from here, and we look forward to helping it be a light and a beacon of the history of this village to beyond Fredonia, really.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Anybody else? So we close the public portion and go to resolutions.
Be it resolved that the training request of Fire Chief Ryan Walker to attend the 2018 Fire Industry Rescue and EMS Expo in Verona, New York, June 13th through 16th, 2018, at a cost not to exceed $907 is hereby approved.
I second the resolution. I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Be it resolved that the training request of volunteer firefighters Anthony DeRusso, Ryan Fisk, Dan Aldrich, Tyler DeRusso, and Kurt Madem to attend the 2018 Fire Industry Rescue and EMS Expo in Verona, New York, June 13th through 16th, 2018, at a cost not to exceed $3,250.81, with the remaining $3,250.81 to be paid by volunteers is hereby approved.
Second that motion. I
Trustee-
vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Whereas bids for water meters for the Department of Public Works were publicly opened and read on May 11th, 2018. Now therefore be it resolved, after review of bids, Thai Sales Incorporated, 36 Hudson Road, Sudbury, Massachusetts, is hereby awarded the bid for water meters for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2018 and ending May 31st, 2019, as per attached bid form, a copy of which is attached to and made part of these minutes.
Second?
Trustee
vote
Barris.
aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Be it resolved that the following bids being the lowest bids submitted for village fuel is hereby accepted for the prices set forth below for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2018 and ending May 31st, 2019. TPS 1828 Route 20 Silver Creek is hereby awarded for the bid for unleaded gasoline with dealer markup of 0.0223 cents plus the current refinery rack price on the day of delivery, and low sulfur diesel fuel with dealer markup of 0.0223 cents plus the current refinery rack price on a day of delivery, and all-weather diesel fuel with dealer markup of 0.0223 cents plus the current refinery rack price on the day of delivery.
I second.
Trustee Barris.
And I make the point that this should be $0.0223 rather than cents.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes. Whereas bids for polyaluminum chloride for the water filtration plant were publicly opened and read on May 11, 2018, and whereas Chris Surma, Chief Operator of the water filtration plant, has reviewed the bids and has recommended awarding the bid to Slack Chemical Incorporated, 465 South Clinton Street, Carthage, New York. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Slack Chemical Company Incorporated is hereby awarded the bid for polyaluminum chloride for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2018 and ending May 31st, 2019 at the bid of $152 per 55-gallon drums with no drum deposit.
Second?
Trustee Barris. Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes. Whereas bids for polyorthophosphate for the water filtration plant were publicly opened and read on May 11, 2018, and whereas Chris Surma, Chief Operator of the water filtration plant, has reviewed the bids and has recommended awarding the bid to Slack Chemical Company Incorporated, 465 South Clinton Street, Carthage, New York. Now therefore be it resolved that Slack Chemical Company Incorporated is hereby awarded the bid for polyorthophosphate for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2018 and ending May 31st, 2019 at the bid of $295 per 30-gallon drum with no drum deposit.
Second?
I vote aye.
Barris. Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Whereas bids for powdered blend of inorganic phosphate for the water filtration plant were publicly opened and read May 11, 2018, and hereas Chris Surma, Chief Operator of the water filtration plant, has reviewed the bids and has recommended the award the bid to Slack Chemical Company, Inc., 465 South Clinton Street, Carthage, New York. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that Slack Chemical Company, Inc. is hereby awarded the bid for powdered blend inorganic phosphates for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2018 and ending May 31st, 2019 at the bid price of $103.50 per 50-pound pails with no deposit.
I second.
Trustee Barris.
I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Whereas bids for polycat...
Polycationic.
Thank you.
Cationic.
Polymer for the water filtration plant here were publicly opened and read on May 11, 2018. And whereas Chris Surma, Chief Operator of the water filtration plant, has reviewed the bids and has recommended awarding the bid to Slack Chemical Company, Inc., 465 South Clinton Street, Carthage, New York. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Slack Chemical Company, Inc. is hereby awarded the bid for polycationic polymer for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2018 and ending May 31st, 2019 at the bid price of $227 per 55-gallon drums with no drum deposit.
I second the resolution. I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Whereas bids for liquefied gas chlorine for the wastewater treatment plant and water filtration plant were publicly opened and read on May 11th, 2018. And whereas Betsy Sly, Chief Operator of the wastewater treatment plant, has reviewed the bids and has recommended awarding the bid to Jones Chemical, 100 Sunny Soul Boulevard, Caledonia, New York. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Jones Chemical is hereby awarded the bid for liquefied gas chlorine for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2018 and ending May 31st, 2019 at $80 for 150-pound cylinders with no container deposit and no fuel charge for the water filtration plant, and $700 per ton with no container deposit and no fuel charge for the wastewater treatment plant.
I second that.
I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Whereas bids for synthetic flocculant for the wastewater treatment plant were publicly opened and read on May 11th, 2018. And whereas Betsy Sly, Chief Operator of the wastewater treatment plant, has reviewed the bids and has recommended awarding the bid to SNF Polydyne, 1 Chemical Plant Road, Riceboro, Georgia. Now, therefore, be it resolved that SNY Polydyne is hereby awarded the bid for synthetic flocculant NE2018 at $1.74 per pound for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2018 and ending May 31st, 2019.
I'd like to second that motion.
I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Whereas bids for ferric chloride for the wastewater treatment plant were publicly opened and read on May 11th, 2018. And whereas Betsy Sly, Chief Operator of the wastewater treatment plant, has reviewed the bids and has recommended awarding the bid to Slack Chemical Company, Incorporated, 465 South Clinton Street, Carthage, New York. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Slack Chemical Company, Incorporated, is hereby awarded the bid for ferric chloride at a price of $614 per dry ton, delivered for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2018 and ending May 31st, 2019.
Second that motion?
I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
And by that, we're done. Can I have adjournment, please?
I'll do it here. I hereby make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss employment history
have
of
it done.
a particular person. If you want to second it, Jim.
I'll second it.
Okay. Trustee Barris.
I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Bridge?
Yes.
Trustee Isaac?
Yes.